Worship is giving or responding to who God is based on what we're learning about God. So as we grow, our worship will also grow. It's not going to be the same. How we worship will change. It will grow with us. So today, I'm going to talk about how we can reflect the glory of God. Because once you are in the presence of God to worship Him, whether it's a corporate like this or individually when you're not here, or there are different ways to worship Him, but as we worship Him, as we get to know Him better, how do we reflect the glory of God? That's what we're going to think about today. So I'll set it up like this. So we're going to go to Exodus chapter 33 and 34. Obviously, that's two chapters that's long. So I'm going to show you parts of it. If you do want to find it in your phone, we will go to some parts of it. So I'll just let you know. We're going to start at chapter 33, actually verse 1. So let's do it this way. Think about the most important relationship in your life. The most important relationship that you have in your life. And the most important request you made to the person. I'm assuming the most important relationship is with the person. So think about it. Think about the most important relationship in your life and the request, the most important request you made to the person. These two things, I believe, will reveal your character more than anything else in life. All right? So hold on to that, and let's go to Exodus 33, and I'll tell you why I think that. I can summarize it for you. I can read some of it, but basically at this time, God is telling Moses to move on. Take the Israelites, there are about 2 million of them, and take them into the promised land. So the Lord spoke to Moses, go, leave here, wherever they were in Egypt, right? You and the people you brought up from the land of Egypt to the land I promised to Abraham. So promised land, they're not there yet. The land I promised to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, saying, I will give it to your offspring. So God promised Moses' great-great-grandfather, okay, as it were, Abraham, I'm going to give you this land to your people. Now, Abraham was not a nation yet, right? It was just a family, just a guy with the wife and kids. He had a lot of servants, and he was a rich person, but he was not a nation yet. But God promised to Abraham, through Isaac, through your son, that I'm going to start a nation. So now they're a nation of Israel. They're under slavery to Egypt. God freed them from Egypt. Now God is telling Moses, I want you to go into this land, and there will be all these people. There will be Canaanites, Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites, mosquito bites, all kinds of people, okay? All kinds of things will be in your way. But you know what? I will take care of them. So go. But this is what he says. I will send an angel ahead of you and will drive out these people, Canaanites, Amorites, and all these people. Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey. That's the promised land. But he says, I will not go with you. But I will not go with you because you are a stiff-necked people. You're arrogant people. So I want you to go. I'll send an angel. I will take care of all your problems. But I'm not going with you. Okay? So now Moses is saying, that's good. That you're going to do all these things and you're going to send an angel in front of us. But he's having a conversation with God. Moses having a conversation with God in a way that it was so intimate. This is what the Bible says in verse 11. The Lord would speak to Moses face to face. Okay? He's not just reading a book. I mean, Old Testament wasn't written yet. He's not just, okay, you're speaking, I'm hearing a big grandfather in the sky. But here it says, the Lord would speak to Moses face to face, as one speaks to a friend. So sometimes we call Moses a friend of God. God calls him that, right? And in verse 12, this is what Moses does. Moses said to the Lord, you have been telling me, lead these people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. You have said, I know you by name, and you have found favor with me. If you are pleased with me, teach me your way so I may know you and continue to find favor with you. Remember that this nation is your people. So now Moses is talking to God as if he doesn't know these things. You said you know my name. You say you're close to me. You say you care about me. You said I have found favor in you. Man, if this is all true, he says, remember that these people that you're sending into the promised land against all these odds, they're your people. Then the Lord replied, my presence will go with you. God says, I'm not going with you guys because you guys are arrogant people. You disobey me all the time. But because God's friend, it happened to be a leader of this nation, says, God, we need you. And Lord changes his mind. He says, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. Moses, this ain't your job. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Then Moses said to him, if your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth? The only thing that will distinguish me from everybody else in the entire world is your presence, right? And the Lord said to Moses, I will do very thing you have asked, because I am pleased with you and I know you by name. Now, why is God pleased with Moses? It doesn't say because you obey me. It doesn't say because you read the Bible. But he says, you're my friend. I'm just pleased. Like when you pick your friends, okay, and you become friends, why do you like them? Is it because the things they do for you? That's not friendship, right? I mean, true friendship has nothing to do with whether they will do something for you, whether they will be available for you. All these things are there, but you're friends just because, right? This is basically what God is saying to Moses. I will do what you ask because I like you. You're my friend. Then Moses said, now show me your glory. Do you think the most important relationship that Moses had in his life was with the person of God? I mean, God himself calls Moses his friend. And there is a critical point of his life where he has to make a decision as a leader, but also as a follower, but also as a friend of God, that he could make, I mean, he sort of, so to speak, like he's God. The Moses got God's attention, his ears, and God says, tell me anything you want. I'll do that for you. I mean, this is Almighty God who created the universe saying, you ask me whatever, I'll do this in my name. And you know what he had? He could have gotten anything you want. He could have gotten a Ferrari, a chariot Ferrari, I don't know. But he says, show me your glory. I want to know more about you. You know, in the New Testament, Apostle Paul kind of said the same thing. He was 80-some years old. He's in jail. He's writing this letter probably for the last time. And he says, if I can do anything, if I can get anything, if I can ask anything of God, I want to know Jesus. And first time I read that, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you've been an apostle. You've been a servant of God for all your life. You wrote most of the New Testament at this point, right? And you're saying, I want to know. If you didn't know Jesus, how could you have done any of this? But that desire, intimate desire to know the person. You know, I could tell you this. I didn't tell my wife I'm going to say this, but I was thinking about it earlier. You know, we've been married for 17 years, okay? We're approaching that second decade mark, and I've known her for a year longer than that. And after almost 2 decades, I'm still learning new things about her. And it excites me to know that. I don't like everything about it, but, you know, I learn. And the same thing goes for her. She's learning new things about me, and half the things she might not like. But that's what a relationship is. It's not like, God, I know you because of John 3:6, and I memorized it when I was 12 years old, and I'm done. No. Worship is responding to who he is as I'm getting to know him better and better and more each day. Now, again, relationship is ups and downs. It's not just that I was here when I was 10, 11 I grew, 13 I grew, 25 I grew, 45 I grew. No, it's ups and downs, but it is discovering new things about the person that is important to you. So Moses is finding out more about who God is. Oh, that makes sense. God is infinite God. But also God says, I'm not going with your people. I'm just going to send my angel. But after the intimate encounter with his friend, Moses, he says, I'll go with you. And is there anything else I can do for you? And his request is, show me your glory. Now, in year 1871, in Brooklyn, the guy named Henry Sage, There's a Beecher Yale lecture series. Yale used to be a seminary, training pastors. Now it's a university. So they were having this meeting in Brooklyn, and this is what he said. It is historically true. In the beginning, Christianity did not succeed by its doctrine, but by the lives of disciples. The doctrine is important. I mean, I'm not minimizing the importance of doctrine. Without the sound doctrine, Christianity, we have no message. But character of a person affects how we serve God. It affects the ministry that we're involved in. When I say ministry, I'm not talking about what I do. I'm talking about what we do as God's people. As we have relationships with people in this world. As we love God and love other people, love our neighbors. That's ministry. Our character, our reflection of who God is. That's what a character is. It affects our ministry. I remember when I was in college, I was going to this fellowship every Friday night, and it's called International Students Ministry or something like that, International Student Ministry. And once a month there's a potluck dinner. So 7 o'clock or so, 7:30 or so, all the students from all different countries will bring a particular food from their culture. And it was a great food is always good. It was I went every Friday, and I never missed the last Friday because there was food. There was this lady, was an American lady who was volunteering for this, and I'm like, this is wonderful. I mean, there are people who are setting up tables for us and putting nice table. We're students. We don't need table covers, and we use dirty dishes. But she always brought brand new cups and brand new paper plates. I mean, we loved her. But as I was getting to know her, and as she was serving, month after month after month, she got to know some people, and she will talk to people from different culture groups. Why do you make this? How do you make this? Tell me about your culture. And then she discovered that as an American, that these international students have different the aspects of culture that she didn't really like. That's not American, that's different. Why would you say that? Why would you do that? Why don't you celebrate this holiday? So she would get to know more about their culture, and she would get into arguments with them. You're supposed to do things this way. You're not supposed to cook something this way. Now, which is an opinion, that's fine. But towards the end of the year, we did this for 9 months, right? 10 months or so during the school year. Towards the end, as I was getting to know her, she was criticizing different cultures. She was complaining about the different food and how they taste. And in the beginning, she was excited about all this. And one thing she said, I can't really repeat here, but she was saying, man, I can't believe some of these clowns are doing these weird things. You know what I thought? As a little kid, I thought, why are you here? Nobody asked you to be here. You volunteered. You volunteered to come and help, but you don't like it, you don't have to come. But you show up month after month and doing great things. She still brings the table covers, still brings the cups, and still brings utensils and everything. But she's there to complain. So I'm saying, nobody is requiring you to be here. And you're here. And you complain about the people you serve. Now that was, some 30 years ago. But for me, as I was reflecting on that memory, I said, that could be true of us. As Christians, as followers of God, as ministers of God. Man, we're excited about serving people, serving at the church, sometimes serving out there and serving each other in our family, whether it's a spouse, whether it's children, whether it's whoever at work. And initially we think in the beginning of that relationship, oh yeah, I'm a child of God, I'm a follower of God, I'm a Christian, I want to be nice to them, I want to serve them. We start out there, then after a while, the devil will say, you're being taken advantage of. How can they do that to you? How can they say that? It's because you're a Christian. It's because you're too nice. And then we start looking at the ugly side of things, and we start talking about it. And then our heart is not in the right place. And then when you think about it, nobody asked you to do that. You volunteered. And then you start complaining about things. And it shows our character. It reflects what's inside, but it's really not the glory of God. Why do we serve and minister to people in the first place? How we conduct ourselves as God's people in our community is important. See, service is not just what you do, but it is who you are. if you show up and do the right things, day after day, week after week, month after month, and do the right things, you think that's what all that matters. But it's not really what we do only, but who you are really matters. You know, this lady, so after serving for a year, you know what she told me? As we were having a last potluck of the year, she says, I love being here every month on Fridays to serve. I mean, she came actually more than that. You know, I love being here every Friday. But you know what she says? I love serving the church. I love serving God. I just can't stand these people. I said, but that's why you're here. Right, if I'm being honest, I mean, there are times I feel like that, you know. I look at God's people, I look at myself and say, I can't believe Christians do this. You know, I find myself talking about Christians in a way that, you know, oh, Christians should be better than this. And I'm thinking, I am one. It should be better than reflect the glory of God. It should come through your character rather than just talking about it. Serving is all about relationship. It's not about what you do. It's about relationships. If your relationship goes back that you do the right thing, that's not the right thing. Life is really all about relationships, isn't it? Right? It's not about what you do. It's about who you are, how you deal with people. Worship is all about relationship. It's our relationship with God and how we reflect the glory of God to other people. That's what worship is. You know, doing the horizontal thing, helping people, serving people, loving our neighbors. The horizontal without the vertical is self-serving. See, if I'm doing the right thing to these people, because you care, but it's not coming from the right relationship with God, it ends up being self-serving. We need to move from show me my glory to show me thy glory. You know, whenever we ask God to give us glory, the result of our work, result of our service. I've been breaking my back doing this, whatever that is, and where's the result? That is really asking God, show me my glory. I've been working hard in my marriage. I've been working hard as a parent. I've been working hard as a worker. I've been working hard as a pastor. I've been working hard as whatever. And then where is the result? You're asking God, show me my glory. But whenever we ask God, show me my glory, you know how God responds? He says three things. You need me. I don't need you. Right? And then he says, everything begins in your life with your relationship with me. It's not about what you do, what you desire, what you could do, what you cannot do, what you have accomplished, what you cannot accomplish, what your goal is. It's not about that. You need me to do everything, and I don't need you to tell me how to do my job. And everything begins, everything in your life that you desire, that you don't desire, whatever it is, begins with my relationship with you. If it's not vertical, it doesn't really matter what you do horizontally. Moses' life was so impacted by God, he didn't even realize it. He said, what are you talking about? He was reflecting the beauty of God, and he didn't know it. It came as a result, not as a pursuit. He did not struggle to say, God, you know, I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to read Bible every day, and I'm going to strategize and pursue the glory of God. And I want everybody to know that the character I have is from Jesus. He didn't do that. He didn't even know. I'll prove it to you, okay? Chapter 34 of Exodus, next chapter, starting at verse 29. This is what he says. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai. So what happened in chapter 34 now, after God says, I'm going to go with you, show me your glory. You know what happened is God says, okay, if that's what you want, go on this rock. Okay? I'm going to pass you by so you can see me. Well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover your eyes as I pass by so you don't directly see my face. There's no one who will see me and live. Okay? Because God's glory is too much for a human being to handle. So you can see the backside of the glory of me. That was your request. I'm going to show you my glory, but you can't see me directly, right? Sort of indirect, reflection of the glory of God. Then God says, this is the time where actually Moses got the chapter 12 in Exodus. He got the 10 commandment, and remember, Israelites, they start worshiping calf and all that. So he threw it and he broke the tablets that he got from God. That happened before. So now God is saying, you know what? Come up to the mountain. and make 2 stone tablets like you did before you broke it. God made sure he understood. You come, I'm going to give you new tablets so you can remember my commands, right? So that's what's happening. So towards the middle of this chapter, when Moses came down from Mount Sinai after receiving the commandments, after spending 40 days with God, okay, with 2 tablets of the covenant law in his hand, he was not aware that his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, and they were afraid to come near him. I mean, imagine this. The guy's up in the mountain for 40 days. You never hear from him. He didn't eat. Then he comes down, his face is, it's like Halloween kind of thing, right? So they were afraid of him. But Moses called to them. So Aaron and all the leaders of the community came back to him because they recognized, okay, that's Moses. He's not a zombie, okay? He's real, right? And he spoke to them. Afterward, all the Israelites came near him, and he gave them all the commands the Lord had given him on Mount Sinai. The second time he's giving the 10 commandments, right? So this is what leaders do. You go up first if there's anything else. If that's the zombie, you get eaten first, right? And then all the other Israelites came after that, realizing, okay, that's Moses, is safe, right? Now, verse 33 says, when Moses finished speaking to them, he put a veil over his face. But whenever he entered the Lord's presence to speak with him, he removed the veil until he came out. So when he was in the presence of God, because there was a tent where he will go in and speak with God, he will take the veil off because he's in the presence of God who knows you, who sees you, and he still loves you and cares for you. He is your friend. So there's nothing to hide, right? But when he comes out in the world, the glory of God, the reflection of the glory of God was too much for the people. And they were afraid. So he covered his face with the veil, right? And when he came out and told the Israelites what he had been commanded, they saw that his face was radiant. Then Moses would put the veil back over his face until he went in to speak with the Lord. His time with God was so intimate that his face was physically radiant. You know, this is the idea they get when you go to a chapel and Catholic churches and those church, when you see the picture or the painting of Jesus, you know, you see the halo, you see it's glowing. They probably get the idea from here. And physically, his face was radiant. He didn't even know until people told him. They were afraid. It was like, what's up? And you have no mirror, right? Go to the whatever lake and look at yourself. You're scary looking. Right? But he's saying, but this is from the Lord. This is the glory of God. This is what I asked God for. He gave it to me. And you know what? Everybody was able to see it. But it wasn't like, I spent 40 days with God and look what I got from him. You guys should try it. That's not what it was. Man, he comes out and says, I want to share with you that intimate time that I spent with God. This is my friend. This is my daddy. You know, in medicine, there is something called Hallam's Law. Anybody heard of that? I heard this long time ago. I tried to Google it, and it doesn't come up. So I don't know if this is true. I thought Google stuff is not true, but maybe what you hear a long time ago is not true either. But this is what I heard. There's something called Hallam's Law, probably somebody's name. It says, pay attention to a particular function of the body. It will make a difference in how it functions. Okay? So let me ask you, are you breathing right now? Are you breathing? Breathe, right? Have you been breathing all this time? Are you breathing differently now? You're paying attention. Are you blinking your eyes? Have you been blinking all this time? How often? How many times a minute do you blink your eyes? See, if you start paying attention, now like, oh yeah, you don't think about breathing, right? Do you have dry eyes now? See, you don't want to blink, right? They say we blink about 25 times a minute. That's a lot, right? You should look in the mirror and count, okay? 25 times a minute. So if you're driving 40 mile an hour for 10 hours, for 20 miles, you're driving with your eyes closed. I mean, see, you can't pay attention to these things, right? So you gotta let things be, right? Most important and vital function of our body and most satisfactorily functioning when they're not the subject of our attention. We all want to grow, and we all want to be intimate with God. We want to be in the presence of God, see the power of God, experience it, and experience the glory of God. But it becomes a pursuit. If I read 3.5 chapters a day, every day, I can read through the Bible entire. That's a good thing. But it becomes mere pursuit of my spiritual exercise for me. If I pray X number of days, and if I pray for these kind of things, then God will protect me more, or God will bless me more. All good stuff, okay? But if it becomes a strategy and a pursuit rather than a relationship. See, do you think God can con you into heaven? I didn't know I was a Christian, but I ended up here. No, it has to be something that you understand and realize. It has to be conscious. But at the same time, do you think you can con God into blessing you more? Oh God, I've been reading Bible this week. Well, God knows everything about you. But what about last week, a week before, a week before? It's a good thing. But, I do that. Sometimes I go to God and say, well, this week I've been reading a particularly difficult passage, God, because I love you. By the way. And God is like, are you kidding me? You know what the assumption is? My kids do that, all of a sudden they're nice to me. Oh, you want a back massage? I'm like, I've been asking for it. You say you're Allenberg. All of a sudden, you want a massage? I'm like, oh, maybe something got through to them. I get a massage for 5 seconds. Oh, Daddy, I've been looking at this website, and it's called Amazon. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The assumption is, it's not that I don't want to get it for him. Sometimes it's a frivolous thing. Well, I get frivolous things, but that's fine. But assumption is, why couldn't you come to me and say, hey, I found this on Amazon and I like it. Can I get one? Worse is no, right? Talk to me like, you see what I'm saying? Do you think you have to con me into getting you something that you don't need? That's where it hurts me, right? It's their effort, yes, great. It's cute, right? And then I'm like, I do this to God. And you know what my daddy in heaven says? What is your assumption about me? Your assumption is that I don't love you. You're not valuable to me, right? You think that you're not my friend. Man, my son died for you. And you're trying to con me into doing things for you, right? Moses realized, man, all I want in my life is the presence of God. Man, that will distinguish me from everybody else on the face of the earth. And God says, man, that's all you can do? What else can I do? Man, show me your glory. The most important relationship he had was with God. And the most important request he made was, I want to see you. I want to know you more. Moses had unconscious godliness. He had it, didn't even know it. He didn't try to do it. It was the result of a relationship with God that was intimate, and a request with God that was vertical. Show me your glory. It was all about him. It wasn't about what I want. I want to modify what Henry Sage said in a Beecher Yale lecture in 1800. The success of Christianity, he says, is not won by its doctrine, but by the life of the disciples. But I want to modify, because doctrine is important. The success of Christianity is not by doctrine alone, but by the lives of its followers, the disciples, us. I remember when I was in youth ministry, a while ago. I remember this night like it happened just a couple hours ago. After our youth group meeting, about 9:30ish, we're leaving the church, and these kids were driving. This was Illinois, so they drive when they're 15. So they were driving, and they were talking about going to whatever this party. And then I said, you just go straight home and don't drive too fast. And I was following this boy, not because I wanted to. We happened to be going the same direction, and I recognized his car, and he was going. Everybody drove about 75 miles an hour on that highway anyway. I drove 65 one time. I got pulled over. I didn't get a ticket. It says, you're driving too slow. I'm like, but it's 60. But everybody's driving so you got to go with the full flow of the traffic. I actually got pulled over for driving too slow when I was 5 miles over the. So everybody drove fast there. So I told all my kids, drive carefully, drive slow, okay? Go on the slow lane, don't go fast. You're 16 years old, right? This guy obviously, they listen, right? Teenagers. So he was going probably about a 90 mile an hour. So just to catch up with them, I was following him, okay? Not to go fast, but just to make sure he's okay. He hit the guardrail. He hit another car, spun around, hit another car, and he spun around, and he went all the way across without getting hit another time. And I ended up in the ditches. So there are 3 boys in the car. And I pulled over. I just started running, got out of the car, running towards the car. Now that I think about it, we could all been dead. But I was running towards the car, and I was thinking, maybe 20 seconds, I'm thinking, I told them to slow down, I was following them, and I was thinking of all this, and I saw the face of this young boy. I just didn't know what to say. So I just gave him a hug. And he was literally shaking. Make a long story short, that happened, and a couple of years have gone by. And this guy's now in college, and he comes back for his first vacation. And he was in my apartment. He says, "Hey, Pastor Jay, do you remember when I got into an accident?" I'm like, "Yeah, you would call him dead by now." And then he says, "Do you remember what you did for me?" When people say in ministry, "Do you remember what you did for me?" Now, you can go any direction. Okay? So I'm like carefully like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I remember that night. You gave me a hug. You embraced me in the middle of a busy highway. We could have been killed, but you stood there and you just embraced me. Man, I felt the love of Jesus." I said, "What are you talking about? Like, I wanted to slap you. That's really what I wanted to do, but I just gave you a hug because you're crying. You know, I didn't say that, but..." And then it hit me that night. Here I thought, as a youth pastor, I thought I have to have an answer to every question. Every time. I thought when somebody makes a stupid argument about a Christianity and it's wrong, I have to make an argument. I have to win it for sake of Jesus. And I have to analyze everything, and I have to come up with some kind of biblical solution to everything. That's what a pastor does. That's what I thought. I was in my 20s, what do I know? But that's what I thought what a youth pastor does. But you know what I realized? Listening to this boy, and now he's a man, but all you did was you gave me a hug and you embraced me. You loved me. I really didn't. I really wanted to wring his neck. But that's what he felt, because I didn't say anything. And then, a few days after, I found this poem some older lady wrote in the church that says, "I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. I'd rather one would walk with me than merely show me the way. The eye is better pupil and more willing than the ear. Fine counsel is confusing, but examples are always clear. Relationship and request change the countenance of life, and it produce unconscious godliness." So what kind of relationship do you have with God today? The kind of relationship you have with God determines the kind of relationship that you have with His people. See, when I get ticked at God's people, I realize this vertical relationship is off. It's not them. It's not even me. It's my relationship with Him is off. My friendship is not tight. See, I'll say it this way. When I look at the people, when I look at you and say, "Oh, I can't believe these people are like, whatever." It's not you. It's my relationship with God is off, right? I mean, isn't that true in your marriage? Isn't that true at your job? Isn't that true with kids? I mean, kids do the same thing all the time. Why sometimes you yell and sometimes you don't? Sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're not, right? You get arrested? I'm like, hey, kids do that all the time. Let them do it, right? And then one time they do something very little. I was like, oh, I told you not to do that. You need to obey. I'm like, what's wrong with you? I understand what you're doing, but it's you. It's not them. Right? So if you're ticked at people, whether it be your spouse, your children, your coworker, or your friend, whoever, man, maybe your vertical line is a little off. You have to start there. You think, well, but they said this, they did this, well, no, it's him, it's you, your relationship with God. That has to be right. If that's not right, everything else is off. So, what do you ask of God? The kind of request you make to your God also determines the kind of expectations you have with people. Let me say it this way. Let me say it in English. What you ask of God will reflect on what you ask of people. Your expectation of people is your expectation of God. Okay? I'll come back to this. If you're serving God today, are you serving God by serving His people, or are you serving merely to exercise your spiritual gift, or to fill a void in your life, really? Or you got some time on your hands? Do you mainly want people to affirm you? Do you need them to build your self-esteem? Do you need an ego boost from people around you? Let me ask you this way. What would your closest friend, not God, other than God, what would your closest friend say is the reason you befriended him or her? If I were to ask your closest friend, what would they say? The reason you befriended him. The most important relationship and your request to the person reveal your worship, what you worship and who you worship. It's good to be in the presence of God. You know, when Jesus went up to the Mount Transfiguration with 3 of his favorite disciples, Peter, James, and John, and they saw an image, a vision of Moses and Elijah and Jesus, his face is starting to radiate. And you know what Peter said? Man, this is the star disciple. He'll always say the wrong things, but he said, man, let's build 3 houses here. Let's stay here forever. It's good to be in the presence of God. What did Jesus say? What did Jesus always say to Peter? You're a moron. No. That's basically biblical way of saying that. It says, you got work to do. You can't stay here. You got work to do. What is that? I thought about that. I want to be in the presence of God. I mean, olden days, I don't know if it's good or bad, but like in churches in America, what did preachers or pastors do? They will stay in their office, praying and studying and reading and reflecting on the Word of God. And people will be singing hymns, and they'll be doing responsive readings, and they'll be doing all kinds of things, offerings and whatnot. And until it's time to deliver the message, in the interest of not being distracted by the people, they stayed in their office. And then he comes out and delivers the message, and he goes back in, so that he doesn't influence the people only with the Word of God. Now, I admire and respect that, what's the word? Just respect for the Word of God and the power of God. But the flip side of that is, why don't we all stay in the monastery? What's the point of living in the world? Right? I'm not criticizing what they did. I'm just saying the flip side of that is, you're not that good. You're still a human being, right? So I only want to deliver the Word of God, and I don't want to be influenced by them, or I don't want to influence them myself. If you're that good, you wouldn't be influenced by them, right? You need to influence people by reflecting the glory of God. That's our job. All of us, not just pastors, preachers, or ministers, or people who are serving up here, the singers, or whatever, praise leaders. No, all of our job is to reflect the glory of God. That's worship. That's worship. So in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5, it says, trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding. The difference between belief, or when I read the Bible, I believe everything there is. Trust is when it's difficult for you to obey the word that you say you believe. Now, that's only a principle. Now, that's just a theory. And say you believe, but you really don't. Trust in the Lord. That's trust. And lean not on your understanding. When things don't go my way, well, God, you promised. You know why you lean on God? Because He knows everything. His ways are better than my ways. And then He says, fear the Lord. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? I thought about that today. Actually, it was yesterday or today, I was talking to Gina, and I was thinking about fear of God. How do you explain this in a way that people will get it? Fear is not a good thing, right? The only thing. But what's the fear of God? It is the wrath of God that killed the power of evil and the power of sin on the cross. God dealt with that so that we can be free to be loved by God. That's why we fear Him, because He's a powerful, jealous God. He wants to protect His children. If one of your children is being abused by someone, or if your spouse is being abused by someone, you say, oh, well, there are evil people in this world. Oh, I want to be nice. Oh, let them continue. No. You're abusing my child? You're hurting my wife? You'll be dead in seconds. You better be fearful of me. That's what fear of God is. It's not, we will be fearful of God as a friend of God, but evildoers will be fearful of who God is. But when you are not leaning on God 100%, okay, the fear will seep into your life, and you will start to worry, you will be anxious, you will be demanding things. You will have this expectation of people, why don't you serve me this way, rather than let me serve you God's way. So how we reflect the glory of God, our character, how we live in this world matters, because it reveals our worship, our vertical relationship. It is my hope and prayer that God will call each of us a friend. And I want to spend time with you face to face because I know you. I know you by name. I pray that's true of my life. I pray that's true of your life. Not as a result of pursuit, but as a result of real relationship. I want to